Joe, we're gonna talk about convergence, and for a lot of people, that's just another one of those buzzwords, right? So, what do you think convergence is? What is it to you? Define it for everyone.
Sure. Just quick level set on American Eagle Outfitters for those of you who maybe lost touch with us. So we're about a $3.5 billion business, about 1,100 stores worldwide, 900 of which are domestic. And primarily I'm the business of selling blue jeans to your teenagers. And I thank you very much for all of your money as they buy a lot of blue jeans. But we're a specialty retailer, predominantly mall-based. We've been around about 35 years, so a more traditional brick-and-mortar company. But if you think about my demographic, which is primarily that 15 to 25-year-old, this is the age that grew up online. These are the digital natives, and it's not a different channel to them. It is the channel, and as you start to think about how we engage with this customer and how they engage with us, the world of having online and offline and brick and mortar and a direct-to-consumer business as they're constantly engaging in both. In fact, if you were to take it a step further, you could almost say this customer is always online, and if they're always online, there is no offline. Because even when they're in my stores, they're using their mobile devices. They're engaging with the brand in a variety of ways, either directly on my sites or apps or indirectly through social channels and so forth. So it's all coming together. There's one customer, customers at the center, and no matter how we engage with them, how we attract them, how we inspire them, how we sell to them, service them, and so forth, it's all coming together. The challenge is, and this is the convergence piece, most retail organizations aren't in any level structurally set up that way, whether it be organizationally, technically, from a systems and architecture standpoint, or even how they market to the customer. And that's the heart of the convergence.
But is that something that gives you a leg up over everyone else because of the type of audience that you talk to, because it's digital natives? Do you get something that's better than anyone else there? Because if they've got a 50-year-old marketplace, is convergence that important to you?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. So certainly, my customer is ripe for this, and the double edge is I have to get it right with them. In fact, I'd say it's almost like I feel like I have a moral imperative to get this right on behalf of all retailers everywhere, because this is the customer that is looking for it. They're moving faster than any traditional retailer can possibly move, and they're engaging in new and innovative ways faster than we can barely keep up. So we've got to get it right for them, or we lose relevance. Now, again, I can do things and get them to engage. This is the good side in a way that a more traditional retailer may not. So I can get a faster read. I can actually engage in some early technologies and in some interesting and fun ways. But we've got to do it. I mean, we literally have no choice.
So your investments, in terms of that convergence piece, where are your sort of investments in personalization and attribution? Where are you specifically seeing results? How does that all come together for you?
Yeah, we're spending a ton of time on attribution and really knowing who that customer is. I mean, we're a deeply customer-centric company, and the challenge is my definition of customer has been very, very disjointed. So I mean, in simple sense, my credit programs was one view of customer, my loyalty another, my email program a third, mobile marketing and SMS a fourth. Then I've got online profile, I've got affinity programs, I've got my POS and transaction receipts and so on. And they were all different views of the customer. And how I can actually assess how my marketing spend is working, how whether it's a CRM or promotional, what lift am I getting and what engagement am I getting has been very challenging when I can't even tie across these channels. And a big challenge is just online to offline, as the majority of my engagement, this is interesting, but traditionally when you look at retail, it's all about the sales disparity, that so much of the sales is happening in brick and mortar and a smaller amount is happening online. And retail all in, I think, is about 90% offline, about 10% online. As you get into more specialty retail, like a business like mine, it gets more 80-20, and then catalog merchants, more traditional direct-to-consumer companies, you see it get even higher than that. But on a sales side, if you'd say if it's 80-20, the focus is obviously going to be very much on the stores. But if you turn it around and look at it on an engagement level, so I know how many people go into all the stores every day. I know how many people go online every day. And we're already at the point that I have about 25% more people online every day than in stores, even though 80% of the transactions are happening in stores. So I've got to figure out this engagement piece, because if I'm talking to my customer, if I'm introducing them to my product, if I'm engaging with them digitally, but the transaction's happening in the store, I've got to connect the dots that way. And then even upstream online, my customer, it's all mobile all the time. I mean, we're way more than 50% of traffic is on mobile. You include tablet in that, and it gets to 2/3. And we're investing heavily in that and seeing triple-digit growth in that investment. But the ability to just track that customer is just sincerely broken, because everything's still really cookie-based, and the marketing touches happen on the mobile device. It's where most of my email is read. It's where most of the inspiration happens. But the transactions still happen either on desktop or in stores. And we're not connecting the dots that way. So I mean, a huge amount of our effort right now is just getting that single view of the customer, getting a common key and consolidating these data sources, as well as being able to then come up with the hooks to actually track these transactions across these channels.
And there are additional challenges in that, because in our most recent research on the customer journey and personalization, one of the things we found was that we don't actually know who the customer is unless they're a repeat buyer, up to sort of 95% of the way through their journey in terms of buying something. They're not logging in at that point. They're staying anonymous. How does that impact what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, the marketer is going to try to do everything they can to get that data to willingly or through sly approaches to get that data for the customer. But generally, it creates friction. And if you really start with the customer at the center, if you're really trying to be a consumer-centric company, you've got to ask yourself what that value proposition is. Why would the customer engage? Why would they care? Again, if I'm a high-frequency transaction, a Starbucks or something like an Amazon, there's a luxury there because the consumer is generally going to self-identify at every touch point nearly every time. Or in the case like Amazon or Apple or so forth, you can't even really do anything if you're not logged in. A business like mine, that's an unreasonable expectation. And taking it even further, the idea, you say, well, an app or something like that, or beacons, the idea that I'm going to expect the majority of my customers are going to download my app, it would also be an unreasonable expectation. I mean, we're one of 100 stores at the mall. We have certainly our loyal customers, but the majority of our customers I know are shopping at other stores all the time. So how do I engage with them that way, where I am dealing with a lot of anonymity until the transaction occurs? And it really starts coming into focusing on what those value propositions are. And whether it's loyalty programs where I can incent the customer, and even thinking about it a different way, it doesn't even necessarily have to be about the transaction. Is promoting and sharing my product. I go into a fitting room, I try something on, I take a selfie, I share it. Am I willing to reward the customer for that? Because that's worth a lot to me. And in fact, it turns out they're doing it every day, all the time. How do I earn the right to be a part of that conversation? Because it's great for me. How do I make it great for the customer? And a lot of the effort is just both how can I find my most loyal customer and get them to engage in better ways, because they are the spokespeople, they are the ambassadors for my company. But how can I find other moments of truth where it's in the customer's best interest to engage, and in doing so, I get that insight I need.
You talked about smart beacons for a moment, and I think you made some reasonable investments in that space. Is that right?
We did do some early testing with beacons, and I mean, this is one of these technologies that everyone's talking about, and there's certainly some interesting examples of deployments out there. It's been a lot harder to come up with examples of real return or value. We did one study with the beacons that was, I thought, really fascinating. So we put a few hundred beacons in a couple hundred of our stores, and over a period of over a month, we measured tens of thousands of people through the program. and did it in a very controlled scientific way. And the program was fairly simple. We were doing this with a marketing affinity partner of ours, a company called Shopkick. And basically, the control group got the traditional benefit if they came in our stores, which they were rewarded with the currency of the program. And the test group got an extra little message. So upon coming in the store, it said, hey, we're going to give you an extra reward if you try something on today. And because of the beacons, we knew both groups whether or not they came in the store, and we knew both groups whether or not that they went into the fitting room. And the beacons were also the ability for us to push these messages down to the customer. And an interesting thing happened. Now, note the extra reward in strict monetary terms was 10 cents of value, a dime. I mean, almost nothing. This was a micro reward. And the nature of the program is unless they earned certain levels, most people would never even realize that 10 cents. So this is a teeny tiny amount of value that is going to be very difficult to ever even get, but it was an incentive. It was just a little tiny push. And we literally, we saw the total number of people who didn't get the message, those who did and got in the fitting room, and we saw over 100% increase in fitting room visits. More than doubling the number of people who actually went into the fitting room. And this is really important for an apparel retailer. I mean, I have two big challenges as an apparel retailer. One is, can I get them in the store, which programs like Shopkick help me do. The other problem is can I get them to take their clothes off? It's pretty simple. I need to get them in the fitting room to try my clothes on. And just this little bit of micro value, just this little push that we drove through beacon technology got twice as many people in the fitting room, and that literally directly translates into sales.
That was equally the story of my life till I got married. So.
Do you want to take the couch? Maybe we can switch roles here.
We could do that. How do you feel about that? No. So in terms of, we want to make sure we get some questions from the floor. So maybe start thinking about some questions we'll ask in a second. But in terms of outside of the beacons, everything that you're doing in terms of convergence, bringing all of that together, what kind of results are you seeing across the board? And obviously, don't tell us anything you can't tell us. I know you've got earnings calls coming.
I promise I will not tell you anything I can't tell you. So no, it's some of what we've been focusing on is really taking a true balanced view. So if you were to download our app, which I'm sure all of you will out of kindness to me, and give us a great review while you're at it, 5-star, that would be great. Thank you. But if you look at our app and you're looking at a product, we've done we've created some challenges for ourselves. So we have two buttons side by side. One is add to bag, as you'd typically expect in a commerce app, but we also have a find in store. And we've made them equal weighting, equal size, equal prominence. And if I was strictly looking at a channel view, how do I drive the most conversion through my app? How do I maximize sales? You would never do that. I'd never create an opportunity to get you out of the funnel. But I know that my customer often wants to go try the product on. And we took it a step further, and we said, okay, let's actually create a reservation program. And I rolled this out to all of my stores now, where not only can you find in store, and it'll tell you real-time inventory if it's there, but it'll say, do you want us to hold it for you? And we'll hold that item for you through tomorrow, so 24 hours plus. No commitment, you don't have to sign in. Again, not trying to force and create friction, force awareness, but just give me your cell phone number so I can text you when it's ready, and that's it. And it'll be there for the store, no commitment, no transaction, no credit card needed, and it's ready for you when you get into the store, and we know it's there because we've got that inventory visibility. So just continuing to get these things right for the customer, like for the app, and giving that balanced approach of let's just service them the way they want. We're seeing just some incredible returns. I mean, we're year over year, literally in the hundreds of % of revenue improvement in the app, even accounting for the fact that I'm making hard on myself and driving people out of the funnel into the stores. We're still getting rewarded because it means people are using the app, they're downloading it, and engaging. And we've some things that you wouldn't even think are important, we're getting benefit from. We launched streaming radio in our app. which is one of those things you're like, it wasn't that hard to do, and it's kind of fun, and why the heck not, and we're all about brand and image, and let's do that. And we've seen rewards in ways I hadn't anticipated. So first of all, just engagement in the app has gone up incredible amounts. People are actually opening the app, keeping it open, just to listen to these great curated streams of music that we have. And the feedback we get is, hey, I'm sitting on the couch anyway, getting inspired, because these kids are just constantly shopping, constantly looking at stuff. They're swiping through the product, and they're hearing the music, and they say, it's like, hey, I kind of feel like I'm in the fitting room, or I feel like I'm in the store. Or associates separately say, I feel like I can never leave the store, please turn the music off. But that kind of tells me it's working as well. But from this and the better engagement, we're seeing higher downloads, we're seeing higher penetration, and things you wouldn't even anticipate from something as silly as like a music stream, we're seeing direct financial benefit from through the indirect engagement that drives. So yeah, I mean, we're seeing literally monetary return and often in triple-digit percentages from just focusing on these consumer truths.
Nice. So we have any questions from the audience? You raise your hand, please. We'll get a microphone out to you. Just here.
Mics are coming.
I'm very interested in knowing, I'm the CEO of getapplause.com, but I'm very interested in knowing what are your most successful customer journeys look like?
I mean, it's a tricky question, as there isn't a single customer journey. What we've been focusing a lot on just what are the friction points in the customer journey, and a lot of that has been focused on the store. I mean, we don't believe the idea is that stores are going away and it's all going to go online. And with apparel, I'm certain that's not going to happen. There's just too much about I want to see how it fits me, how it feels, how it wears. And there's a whole lot of just inspiration and serendipity that happens in stores that our consumers want as well. What are other people shopping? What are they wearing? How are they outfitting? How are they styling? And a lot of that is around social and community. So a lot of what we've been focusing on the consumer journeys is mapping out what those moments of truth are in Convergence. So knowing that they've got their cell phone in their hand, knowing that they're looking at product and reviews and using the camera and all of this content and insight, how do we bring that together? And the younger kid, the way they communicate is very different. I mean, the likelihood of them to go up to someone who's more of an adult figure to just do something as simple as ask, do you have this in stock? I don't see it on the floor. Do you have it in the stock room? Is much lower than their willingness to engage online. So it's really been how do we map these points in the consumer's journey from how they get inspired, how they get in the store, the fitting room, getting to inventory, getting to the cash and wrap and buying, and all of these places where there's opportunity to leverage the convergence of these technologies. And to me, that's the evolution of what happens with the modern store.
Excellent. I saw a hand up just around about there. Yes.
Hi there. I work for Foot Locker, so a similar, I think, audience. And one thing we struggle with, I'm curious if you have any insight on, is the cash buyer and how big the cash buyer is for your brick and mortar side, and if you have any tips on better tracking cash buyers.
Yeah, given the age of our customer, we do have a much higher than average cash business. Substantially higher, actually. And I don't know that we view that as a bad thing, because I mean, even if we get the credit card swipe, it doesn't mean we actually know who the customer is. I can track against those transactions at the point of sale, but really what I'm trying to look at is those upstream touch points and engagement over time. And it's an imperfect approach. So our focus has been much more on giving the consumer reason to self-identify at the POS. And some of that's just been around aligning the incentive programs of the associates in stores in ways that a lot of companies are less likely to do across brick and mortar and direct. So the majority of transactions that happen in our stores, we're able to one way or another get an email address tied to it. Whether it's emailing the receipt, which is a consumer benefit, whether it's signing them up or engaging them in the loyalty program, which is a consumer benefit, or signing them up for credit, which we get the email and so forth. So it's just been finding consumer value and incenting the associates to engage in these things has been very effective for us.
Fantastic. Well, I'd like to thank you very much, Joe, for sharing your experience with us today. Really appreciate it. Please, everyone, go Megibow.